Dear students, ENT is a specialty that you can never avoid in your clinical postings and also in your practicing years. All of you will become consultants in near future. Some of you will become pediatricians or gynecologists, surgeons, physicians, etc., or general practitioners. But whatever your specialty is, a 30 to 40% of your practicing cases will include those from ear, nose and throat. And if you are deciding not to practice medicine at all, then also you yourself or your family members or your neighbors, everyone will get at least one episode of earache in your lifetime. I am telling this only to emphasize the need of learning ENT, not only to pass examination, but it is important in your entire career. Not only for ENT, but for the all specialties. A good diagnosis depends upon systematic history taking and examination of the patient. Okay. Examination of the patient starts with a history taking. So even in this era of sophisticated investigations, history taking remains as an essential skill and need for an accurate diagnosis. So we can start with the history taking. What is the most beautiful word to your ear? That is your own name. Your name is the most beautiful word to your ears. So try to call the patient by his or her name, and it will make a very good impact when you wish the patient calling her name when on the first visit itself. And how can you know the name of the patient in first visit without asking the name of the patient? It's a secret. I'll tell you, don't tell anyone. You can collect the name from the registration counter, or you can collect the OP tickets in advance and you can verify the name of, or if you have a computer system linked with your registration counter in your OPD, you can verify the name by that. Okay, so the first one is the name of the patient. Second is age. What is the importance of age? Certain diseases are linked with age, like congenital anomalies are seen in early childhood. Then your tonsils and adenoid hypertrophy are commonly seen in young children. And juvenile nasopharyngeal angiofibroma is seen in puberty. And presbyacusis seen in older age group. And malignancies are commonly seen in older age group, though no age is immune to malignancy, but commonly they are seen in older age, right? So you get a minimal awareness about the type of disease by knowing the age. And sex. Some diseases are more commonly seen in females, which are what are they? Like ENT, the autosclerosis, then your post-cricoid malignancies, and also atrophic rhinitis is more common in females. But type of malignancies except post-cricoid carcinoma, then juvenile nasopharyngeal angiofibroma, all they are most commonly associated with the males. And also knowing the name, age and sex of the patient, documenting them will help you if you are planning for a research purpose also. Okay. If you are compiling the data for analysis for some publications also, it will be better if you get the or collect the demographic details like age, sex and name of the patient. Okay. Then comes the occupation. In ENT, the voice disorders are commonly seen in certain professions. Voice disorders caused by voice abuse or misuse, like chronic laryngitis, more commonly seen in school teachers, advocates. Sinonasal malignancies are associated with the more commonly seen in woodworkers and also people working in petroleum and metal refineries. Okay, and also residents. Residents, again, it is useful for your follow-up, calling the patient for follow-up, planning the intervals of follow-up. If the patient is coming from very nearby, you can ask for very frequent follow-up, and if the patient is from a far away area, follow-up should be decided accordingly. And also this is useful for your research purpose. And some diseases like rhinosporidiosis is commonly seen in coastal areas. Okay, so these are the baseline demographic data you have to collect from a patient, not only in ENT but in all specialties. After the demographic detail, we can start with the presenting complaints of the patient. And the format is same for not only in ENT, for all specialties. And in the presenting complaint, the patient will tell you, when the patient comes to ENT, he or she will tell you about the ear complaint, nose complaint, there will be complaint about the throat, larynx, pharynx and all head and neck. But since we are discussing about the examination of ear, this part I am sticking to the ear complaints only. About the nose, larynx and pharynx, we will discuss along with the examination of that parts. Okay. So in the presenting complaints of the ear, what will be the complaint? The most common one will be the earache, and there will be otorrhea, there will be giddiness, or a patient will complain of giddy feeling, tinnitus or ringing sensation in the ear, there will be hearing loss, then headache, deviation of the angle of mouth, then there will be swelling in and around the ears, everything will be there. And one thing you have to keep in mind is that, one, write the complaints in the chronological order. And what is that? Example, if the patient is complaining, the presenting complaint, earache, 1 year, and then we are telling otorrhea, discharge from the ear as 3 months, or you are telling us tinnitus, again 3 years. Is this correct or wrong? This is wrong. What are the faults with this? One is, write in a chronological order. You start from old to recent complaint, or start from the recent to the old. In this, it should start from 3 months, 1 year, 3 year, or you can start with the old to recent. Both this can be done. So it should be written in a chronological order. That is the first one. This is correct. And the second fault is with this is, as far as possible, try to write the presenting complaints in patient's own words, and avoid medical terms as far as possible. Patient will not tell you that I am having otorrhea or I am having tinnitus. Instead of that, the patient will tell you, I am having discharge from the ear. Right? And instead of tinnitus, what will be the patient complaint? Patient will complain of, I am having a ringing sensation in the ear, or I am having a sound in the ear. Sound in ear. And here also you have to tell which ear. Okay. So it should be right or left. Or you can write as both ears if it is bilateral. So In the presenting complaint, the first thing, write in chronological order. Second, avoid medical terms as far as possible. Try to narrate in patient's own words. After this comes the history of presenting complaints. The second is history of presenting complaint. So for each presenting complaint, you have to ask for history of that complaint, ask more of leading questions, and also get negative complaints, negative history. That is also important. So one of the most common presenting complaint in the ear is earache or otalgia. For some cases, as soon as the patient comes to your room, you will get an idea about the severity of earache. The patient, especially in case of acute otitis media, the patient will come like this, with very severe pain. Okay, that is the severity. In acute otitis media, perichondritis, furuncle of the ear, it will be very severe. And in a case of chronic suppurative otitis media, it will be mild. And also ask for whether it is unilateral or bilateral. That's important. And the duration, as a patient, എത്ര നാളായിട്ട് ഈ വേദനയുണ്ട്, that is for the duration of complaint. And ask in the local language of the patient. Okay, not all patients will not understand English or your regional language, but you have to ask in patient's local language. That is also important. So ask for the duration, if it is for a long duration or it is of short duration. Long duration usually is of chronic diseases. Short duration will be more of infective conditions. Then constant or intermittent. Whether you are the patient getting it always or it is coming and going. That is intermittent. Then some pain will be aggravated by doing something. So ask a patient whether it is aggravated. Example, in a case of external otitis, if you press the, if the patient touches the pinna, not the doctor, even the patient touches the pinna or on chewing or opening the mouth, the pain of external otitis will be aggravated. So ask for that. And relieved. Some patient will tell, if I put some hot fomentation or if I lie down keeping my ear over the pillow, it is getting relieved. Like that you ask, aggravated or relieving factor. And ask for gastric reflux. Okay. Some pain will be associated with the gastroesophageal reflux disease. So ask for that. Another one, character, I already told. Whether it is dull or pricking type. The patient will tell, kuttunna pole. There will be pricking type. Whether it is burning type. Whether it is stabbing type. Like that you ask for character. And severity we discussed already. And an earache can be due to diseases inside the ear, or it can be due to areas having same dermatomal innervation. That is called referred otalgia. So, to confirm whether it is the earache, the disease due to ear itself, or it can be due to referred otalgia. One of the main reason for a referred otalgia is a dental pain. So, you also asked about the history of dental procedures. Okay, then history of any trauma to the ear. That also should be asked. So these are the history of earache. History regarding the earache you have to ask. So whether it is unilateral or bilateral, then how long you are having it, whether it is constant or intermittent, is there any aggravating factors, any relieving factors, and look for any complaints in the nearby areas for referred otalgia, then character and severity of earache. Another common ear complaint is discharge from the ear or the otorrhea. So if the patient is complaining of otorrhea, you ask for duration, whether it is short duration of a week. Generally we classify into less than 3 weeks, 3 to 6 weeks, and more than 6 weeks, like that. If it is less than 3 weeks, we call it as an acute, and more than 6 weeks, we call it as chronic. In between, example, the patient will be having history of intermittent ear discharge for years since childhood. When example, if the patient is 20 years old and he is telling you that I am having the ear discharge since my childhood, that is coming and going intermittently, and since 3 days I am having a discharge from the ear for this present symptom. Okay, then you can tell it as an acute exacerbation of a chronic ear discharge. Okay, so it is, if it is coming for the first time and if it is duration is less than 3 weeks, it is an acute ear discharge. And if the patient is having since a long duration, it is chronic, and a chronic condition, inactive phase and active discharge since last 1 or 2 weeks, then you can tell it as an acute exacerbation of chronic ear discharge. Okay, so that is it, duration. Then scanty or profuse. Profuse means copious amount, it's coming very much. And scanty, the patient will tell, if I do like this, if I take the buds or something, I can see a minimal amount of discharge on the tip of my buds. Or sometimes the patient will tell, if I wake up in the morning, I see crusted secretions around the ear canal. They are all scanty, and if it is profuse, is usually associated with a chronic suppurative, chronic otitis media, tubotympanic type. Okay, and constant or intermittent. Again, constant means there is discharge all the time. Okay, intermittent means whenever you get an exposure, especially in a chronic otitis media of mucosal type, the patient will tell you that whenever I get an upper respiratory infection or when the water enters into my ears, I get discharge. That is intermittent, typical example of a chronic otitis media of mucosal type. Okay, so you have to ask for that, and you should write in the history that when the patient complaining of whenever the water enters or whenever there is an presence of an upper respiratory infection, there is ear discharge. Okay, so that is constant or intermittent. And then is the character. Character of discharge is also very important, and it will directly point you to the diagnosis most of the time. The character of ear discharge is very important, that you have to ask specifically for that. One type is watery, vellam pole, it will flow like water. Okay, what is watery? In which condition you get a watery ear discharge? Usually the most common condition for a watery ear discharge is CSF otorrhea. After a trauma, there is leaking of the CSF. So that is CSF otorrhea. And also in the case of diffuse otitis externa, you will get a watery ear discharge. Okay. And second is mucoid. How can you know that it is mucoid? The patient will tell you that when I take my ear discharge with a buds, it will become sticky in nature. Sticky discharge. Okay, so that is mucoid. The importance is that these mucus secreting glands are present only in the middle ear. So whenever there is a perforation of the tympanic membrane and the mucus secretions should come into the external auditory canal, then only you get a mucoid discharge. So if there is a mucoid discharge or a mucoid component, it signifies that, or it shows that there is a perforation of the tympanic membrane and the discharge is coming from middle ear. Okay. So usually you get a mucoid discharge in an acute otitis media, acute suppurative otitis media, or in a chronic otitis media. And another one is mucopurulent. Okay, mucopurulent discharge. So usually it will say colored tenacious secretions, and also you will get in otitis media, and it will be sticky in nature, and it is also colored tenacious also. And another one is purulent secretions. So there is no mucoid component, it's only purulent. That is usually from the external auditory canal. You will get in an external otitis with pharyngeal otomycosis, all these conditions. And the purulent nature signifies that there is an underlying bone erosion process. Okay, there is underlying bone erosion. It is purulent, right? And another one is blood stained. We also call it as a serosanguinous discharge, blood stained or serosanguinous discharge. Usually you get in trauma or in hematoma or granulation tissue or glomus tumors, then malignancy of the ear. All these conditions there will be blood staining. So character is, usually it is of 5 type, can be watery, mucoid, mucopurulent, purulent or blood stained. Another common complaint is the hearing loss, or patient will complain of deafness. If so, we have to ask about the onset, whether it was sudden or gradual. Sudden sensory neural hearing loss is becoming a common entity also. So ask him whether there was a sudden loss of hearing or it was gradual over a period of time. Second is duration. Duration, whether congenital or acquired. Congenital deafness may be due to genetic disorders, and if so, you should also ask about the perinatal or antenatal and perinatal history. Deafness of recent onset can be due to infections or trauma to the ear, infections or any vascular deformities, etc. And severity, whether it is a very mild deafness as you see in a case of wax in the external auditory canal, or very, very severe. And then about the laterality, whether it is unilateral or bilateral, that is also very important. And the nature of hearing loss, what is that? Whether it is stable or fluctuating, or whether there is any special characters, like what? One is paracusis villisi. It is seen in otosclerosis. What is paracusis villisi? It is the patient hearing will be better in a noisy surrounding. That is otosclerosis. We will discuss about that during the class on otosclerosis. So one is paracusis villisi. And fluctuating hearing loss. Fluctuating hearing loss is seen in Meniere's disease, in secretory otitis media. And also there will be fluctuations in case of chronic otitis media. Patient will hear better in an active stage of chronic otitis media compared to inactive stage. Okay. If the patient is complaining of an hearing loss, asked about the onset, then duration, whether congenital or acquired, then the severity, then the laterality, whether bilateral or unilateral, and also the nature, if any special characters, like I have explained in paracusis villisi, or if the fluctuating periods, like in Meniere's disease or in a secretory otitis media. Another common complaint is giddiness. And if the patient is complaining of giddiness, you should give extra time for getting the correct history. Okay, and this should be asked in detail, as in most of the cases this giddiness is interpreted wrongly as a true vertigo. Understood? So the sense of unsteadiness is termed as giddiness, but a true vertigo is an hallucination of the movement of the body and also the surroundings. That should be asked. You should get that history from the patient. So ask him, if the patient is coming that I feel giddy, ask him what is the feeling you are having. What do you feel? നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എന്തു തോന്നുന്നു എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ചോദിക്കേണ്ടത്. Patient in a true vertigo, the patient will tell that I have a feeling that movement of my body along with the surrounding. The room itself is getting rotated, and it will be associated with the nausea and vomiting in most of the cases. സാധാരണ പേഷ്യൻ്റ് പറയുന്നത് രാത്രി എണീച്ചപ്പോൾ കട്ടിലോട് കൂടി കറങ്ങി അടിച്ചു എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. സോ That is the most common history that the patient is giving. It's very unpleasant feeling associated with the nausea and vomiting. And sometimes the giddiness will be a simple blackout, or it can be a syncopial attack. So history taking is very important to get whether it is a true vertigo or a syncopial attack or a blackout. Okay, and also ask for when it started. Okay, how it started. ഇത് എങ്ങനെ തുടങ്ങി, എപ്പോൾ തുടങ്ങി, whether there was an history of any associated upper respiratory infection, any viral infections. That way you are going to ask for a history of a viral labyrinthitis. Okay, and then duration. In the duration you have to ask how it started, whether there was a period of remission in between, or it is occurring intermittently, or it is constant feeling. That you have to ask. Then associated complaint. What are the associated complaints you have to ask? You have to ask for any tinnitus, associated hearing defects, hearing problems. Then any history of migraines attacks. Okay. Then any history of trauma, or any history of thyroid medications. Usually the hypothyroidism is associated with the syncopial attacks. Okay. So that is about the giddiness. In giddiness, remember a correct history taking, or you should listen to the patient in case of a giddiness. And another ear complaint is a tinnitus. What is tinnitus? Tinnitus is a ringing sensation in the ear. It can be objective tinnitus or subjective tinnitus. What is subjective? Heard by the subject. That is heard by the patient itself. That is subjective. And objective, another person, the person standing nearby can also hear the sound in the subject's ear, right? So ask him mode of onset, engane thodani, duration, how long the patient is having that, then whether it is unilateral or bilateral, and severity, is it very severe, is it disturbing your normal activities? Some patient will tell, I can't even sleep at night. Okay, so that is severity. Then periodicity, whether it is present all the time, or is there a period of remission in between. Usually in Meniere's disease there will be a period of remission between periods of attacks. Okay, so that is periodicity. So ringing sensation in the ear or tinnitus. These are the major complaints usually seen in OPD regarding the ear. Along with this, there can be other symptoms like headache, fever, or complaints related to the nose and the throat. That we can discuss along with the examination of nose and also the throat. So in headache also, if there is a patient is complaining of pain anywhere, ear or the head, ask him the duration, the onset, then periodicity, then the character or the nature of pain. All these should be asked. The third one is history of past illness. The word history of past illness is preferred over past history, as we are taking the history of only the past illness. In the history of past illness, ask for any similar illness in the past, and chronic disorders like diabetes mellitus, hypertension, bronchial asthma. And in the ear cases, you have to specifically ask for exanthematous fevers, because the 4 named exanthematous fevers, and they are the influenza, viral pneumonia, that scarlet fever and measles. These 4 have got a high association with an acute necrotizing otitis media, and these 4 exanthematous fevers can contribute to the development of an acute necrotizing otitis media. And ask that if there is no history, write as there is no history of exanthematous fevers in the past. And also you have to ask for any ear surgeries in the past to rule out any recurrence of diseases. Example, as a cholesteatoma can recur, and if there is an history, ask for the type of ear surgery, and the route, whether it is postoral or endoral or transcanal, then whether it was done under GA or general anesthesia or local anesthesia, then the hospital stay, whether there was any intraoperative or postoperative complications, whether there is any postoperative ICU admission, and you have to note it down also. And if there is no complaint, write as there is no history of any past ear surgeries. Okay. So remember about the exanthematous fevers and also ear surgery along with the other. You routinely write as there is no similar complaints in the past, there is no history of any diabetes mellitus, hypertension, like that. Okay. Next is a personal history. In personal history, you ask for bowel and bladder habits and sleep and appetite. If the patient is having severe pain, the sleep will be affected, appetite will be reduced. In depressions, the pain or any deafness, all this can lead to depression. That can again reduce the sleep and appetite of the patient, and ask for any addictions. It is especially important in malignancy. And if the patient is a chronic smoker, ask for, calculate the number of pack years. How will you calculate that? Pack years is calculated by number of packets per day. Multiplied by years of use. Okay. If the patient is telling us, I am using 3 packets per day since 20 years, then what is the pack years? 3 packets per day into 20 years. Years, not the age of the patient, it is the years of use. Okay, since 20 years he is using 3 packets per day. Cigarette, then his pack year is 60. Okay, so that is how you calculate the pack years. So bowel and bladder habit, sleep and appetite, and if any addictions. Okay. Family history, you ask for any similar illness in the family. If the patient is complaining of deafness, you ask whether anyone in the family is having deafness. And there are 2 conditions commonly. One is otosclerosis and also sensorineural hearing loss can run in family. So you ask for any genetic or familial reasons for the disease. And history of overcrowding. So there are so many definitions for overcrowding, especially in social and preventive medicine textbooks. One such is 2 parties of above 9 years of age of opposite sex forced to live in the same room so as to make the hygiene, rest and sleep, etc. impossible. That is one. And there are also definitions according to the space per person, etc. So you take you study any one of such definitions and follow that. So look for any history of overcrowding in the family. Why it is important? It is impossible because this overcrowding causes diseases, especially of the ear. It can be a chronic otitis media or infections of the ear. All these can happen because of the unhygienic atmosphere. So that is the importance of overcrowding. And then look for the socio-economic status. That you can assess from the per capita by calculating the per capita income, or roughly you can calculate it looking at the color of the ration card. Okay. Then history of chronic ailments like diabetes mellitus, hypertension or bronchial asthma or pulmonary tuberculosis, etc. After family history, you have to ask for a menstrual history in female. Usually these thyroid disorders are associated with a change in menstruation. And after that comes the treatment history. So certain drugs will cause certain diseases in the ear, nose and throat. Salicylates, aminoglycosides, quinine, cytotoxic drugs, etc. will cause are ototoxic, and use of them for a certain period or a prolonged use can cause deafness. And tinnitus is the most often the first symptom of a salicylate poisoning, right? Then this usage of ototoxic drugs can also cause giddiness for the patient. And some patients having chemo radiation will complain of glossitis and stomatitis. And treatment for hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism should be asked for. And also the usage of drugs like warfarin and anticoagulants can cause epistaxis. So ask the patient whether they are taking any drugs for any disorders, and if they are telling us yes, get a detailed history of the drugs, their usage, their duration of usage, the mode of usage, like that. Okay, so altogether this comes in the history taking. So first is you take the demographic details of the name, age, sex, occupation and residence, and after that ask for the or write down the presenting complaints in the chronological order, and in history of presenting complaints always narrate it in patient's own voice, and don't use medical terms as far as possible. Okay. And history of presenting complaint, I explained all these common presenting complaints in detail. And use the terminology of history of past illness. And in history of past illness, in ear cases, specifically ask for the presence of exanthematous fevers. In personal history, family history, menstrual history in females, and also ask for the treatment history.